Hello, everybody. Chris Lee and Chase Robinson here to talk about the team at the top of the hill, looking down at the rest of the pack right now. That is the Texas A&M Aggies, who got a big win over LSU, stand at 5-0, control their own destiny to the SEC title game, the college football playoff, you name it. The Aggies are on top of the SEC right now. Very exciting times ahead. We wait in anticipation to see what's next. Chase, very interested to dive into what I think is a very favorable path to the college football playoff for A&M. But hey, not an easy one because no game in the SEC is easy right now. And the Aggies certainly have some obstacles in their path to get to where they want to go.
Yeah, if we've learned anything from this 2024 season is that whoever is at the top doesn't stay there for long. But could Texas A&M be that team to stay at the top longer than anyone else? We'll see. But this is we knew that they would be all right. We go to the season. We said, okay, first year in new coach, we got a lot to learn here about Texas A&M. But they've got some guys. They've got some playmakers, and they're showing that. So. It's an interesting path forward. How do they handle that? Can they stay kind of in charge? Well, time will tell, but I'm interested to see where the Aggies go from here in year one with Mike Elko.
Chase, I'll have you pull up the graphic that shows what A&M has done and what's ahead. What you were looking at here, the PRED column, that is the predictive model that we run that is pretty good at telling you what a betting line is going to be. You can see the line on the far right. You can see a pretty good resemblance between the two. They're off a couple of points on most games, but they get you in the ballpark. And 3 SEC games to go at South Carolina, at Auburn, and Texas. None of those are easy because nothing in the SEC is easy. And then you've got a game with New Mexico State that we're just going to ignore for now because this is not last year's New Mexico State. And if the Aggies blow that one, we'll be doing a video about something else. We're just going to give them that one for a win there. So we're going to focus really on South Carolina, Auburn, and Texas. Chase, we talked about the South Carolina at length in a separate preview video, but I think it comes down to this. What team can get the game script at once? For South Carolina, it's forcing turnovers. That's getting a ball in Nick Emenwari's hands for a pick six, which is done by generating pressure. The Aggies really good at not allowing pressure. They're also pretty good at hanging onto the ball. With Marcel Reed now running the show, it's going to be a different kind of look for South Carolina. They're really elite on the edges and up front, but the Aggies don't really turn it over, which is how South Carolina gets points. I think offensively, the Gamecocks don't present a challenge that A&M can't handle. That's a lot of words, but I'll get your take on the Carolina game in a nutshell beyond what we've already done.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game. If Texas A&M decides to go with Marcel Reed, then I think he is a guy who can have a lot of success against South Carolina because he can run and get out of trouble. And, so this is going to be a tough game for A&M. You're coming off that big LSU win. You're on the road at a tough place to play in Columbia, South Carolina. I think it's a tough one for Texas A&M. They're a good team. And A&M is. And so they found ways to win in other close games. I feel like that's kind of how I define a good team is you find ways to win in close games, and they've done that this year. They've been able to pull them out even when things haven't gone their way. And so you got to just trust A&M at this point, but they still have, including the South Carolina game, some tough games ahead that they probably will have to pull some things out and have some things go their way.
Yeah, I want to pack some things ahead in the Auburn and Texas games. Before I do that, basketball fans, it is that time of the year again. And by the way, the Aggies pretty good in basketball, we believe, with Wade Taylor and that bunch. You can bet on the Aggies at betonline.ag. The NBA is back from opening tip-off to buzzer beaters. It's got you covered with the best odds, biggest promotions, and live in-game betting on all your favorite teams this season. Every game matters. BetOnline has everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL to political props. Head to the website today. Get in on all the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering, BetOnline. The game starts here. All right, let's say the Aggies win in South Carolina, which I think they'll do, but that's no give me. Again, you've got to get the game script you want. Auburn, speaking of game script, Auburn has just given games away with turnovers. I think that game is very winnable. I'll be very interested to see what Auburn does. Let's see, between now and then, Auburn's got Vanderbilt. It's got South Carolina, two very losable games. And look, if Auburn loses both those games, you do wonder where its head is going to be heading into that game. Hugh Freeze will be very much on the hot seat. Now, on the other hand, Auburn quits turning it over. It's got an offense with Jarquez Hunter and Cam Coleman and those guys that can generate some really big plays. So I think this game really, sometimes a game is more about one team than another. And depending on what Auburn does, it could be more about Auburn than A&M if we get to that point and things have gone horribly wrong for the Tigers.
Yeah, or things have gone well for Auburn, and that could really change this game because Auburn's a tough place to play. We know that inside Jordan-Hare Stadium. And so, if Auburn has rattled off a couple of wins heading into this Texas A&M matchup, it could look much different. And they could be playing with a lot of confidence going into this game. And so, I think these two road trips for Texas A&M are huge, to South Carolina and to Auburn, because those are two really tough places to play against teams who are really out there trying to prove something. And nothing would make those teams happier than taking down the team who is at the top of the SEC right now. And so I think these two road trips, I think A&M has got to be ready to play. And there different things are going to be thrown at them in these games with South Carolina and Auburn, but these are ones you really want to buckle down and get, especially with them being two road trips, and especially this team that's waiting for you at the end of your schedule.
Well, and finally, speaking of Texas, I saw them up close in Nashville this past weekend. Very, very talented team. I mean, just depth and speed and physical guys everywhere. They got two quarterbacks where some teams are looking for one. But I think by the time we get to that game, you're going to see A&M has been more tested, I think, than Texas A&M has been. And oh, by the way, guess where that game is, Chase?
It's in College Station.
Yeah.
They get that one at home, and that's big. That is big for A&M to get that game at home. Because you look, of course, that Notre Dame game was at home. They lost, but they've been able to get Missouri, who is a ranked team, at home, and they got that win. They were able to get LSU, the other ranked team, that they've beaten at home, and got the win. So that is huge for Texas to be in College Station, for them to get them there, because that's going to be a tough game regardless, but to get that one at home is huge for A&M.
All right, let's say, well, look, if A&M runs the table, we know that A&M is getting to Atlanta for the SEC championship game against somebody. I think what happens from there, irrelevant, except for, do you get the bye or not? And here's the thing, like, you could get the bye. What you don't want to do is drop to, like, lose it and drop to a 9 seed or below, because then you're going on somebody else's field. So a lot hinges on there, just getting to the game. And I'm trying to look at the standings, and, like, because 8-0, we know what's going to happen. A&M will be the only unbeaten. It already is the only unbeaten in the league. You've got what? You've got Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, and LSU all at 3-1. If you end up tied with Texas with one loss, I mean, look, I guess the options will be you're going to win the tiebreaker with LSU, so they're not a factor.
Right.
Your potential competition is Tennessee. Well, it's not Tennessee and Georgia, because they play each other. One is going to eliminate the other one.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find scenarios where A&M goes 7-1 and doesn't get there. You can eliminate LSU. You can eliminate either of Tennessee or Georgia. The tiebreakers are, and let me pull these up. Head-to-head, that's not going to be a factor except against Texas, and we've already kind of unpacked that one. Common opponents. So that the tied team's record against all common conference opponents are compared. In that case, if it's Georgia, Texas would be a common opponent. Obviously, Georgia will have won that game already. We'll see how A&M does. I mean, look, you get dizzy just unpacking it, but that's where it's going. You would need to be looking at common opponents between A&M and Georgia and A&M and Tennessee in that scenario.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and it'll take a while to sit down and figure all this out. But I think A&M has in their mind, hey, let's not lose another game and let's go to Atlanta and play for the SEC championship, and we'll see what happens if they drop one along the way. But this team, they're playing good right now. They're playing very confident, and they're playing like they've got their eye on being in Atlanta and even farther when it comes to the playoffs. So I like the way they're playing. They've got, again, 2 tough road trips. They've played so well at home. They've got 2 tough road trips, and then Texas at home. It's a tough stretch, but I think a very winnable stretch for A&M.
Okay, if Tennessee is your tiebreaker, then you've got a common opponent, Florida. Both teams have beaten Florida. Arkansas, A&M has beaten Arkansas. Tennessee lost to Arkansas. Mississippi State, A&M has beaten State. I think Tennessee will. And I believe that is it for common opponents. Yeah, that's it. You would have thought there would have been more crossover than there was, but that's it. As far as Georgia goes, your common opponents would be, let's see, gosh, not a ton of overlap. Auburn would be one. Mississippi State would be one. Texas would be one. Florida would be one. Yeah, that would be it. So, that's what you're going to be looking for as we get closer to the finish line. Again, go 8-0 in the league. We're not having this discussion.
Right.
Go 7-1. Those are going to be your points you look at when we're getting to the tiebreaker.
Yeah, and so in their case, like I said, they're just going to buckle down and try to win out, and that solidifies their spot. But a number of things can happen. It's SEC football, where things have not gone like we thought they could. So it could look. We could have a different conversation next week, about A&M. But I think they're playing the way they're playing right now shows that they are in it to make a deep run.
Yeah, certainly you behoove yourself to take control of things, and certainly with A&M and what it's done so far, everything that you boil it down to, even a one-loss A&M would appear to me to be in good shape. So Aggies, hey, nothing is ever locked up in the SEC. I don't think any of the road trips to South Carolina or Auburn are going to be easy, and certainly the home game with Texas won't be easy. The one thing we've learned is that, take care of business. You take nothing for granted. And the Aggies have been really good at taking care of business so far. So you kind of like their chances in this spot, given their track record of consistency. Whatever happens, we'll be here to talk about it. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button so you can get all our content. Caroline.smith at Southeastern14.com if you'd like to advertise to our millions of people who watch us every year. For Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. You're watching Southeastern 16 presented by BetOnline.